Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first UK-Saudi Virtual FinTech Week. My name is Salim Kawadri, and I'm the Department for International Trade's Head of Investment in Saudi Arabia, based in the British Embassy in Riyadh. We would have preferred to organize a physical mission, but owing to COVID-19, of course, we have turned this entirely into a digital one, which goes somewhat with the theme of our week, FinTech. As we will hear throughout the week, FinTech is an important sector and growth area of both our G20 economies. To briefly remind everyone of what we have planned for this week, in this session today, we will hear from the Saudi government, or what the Saudi government is doing to develop a FinTech ecosystem in the kingdom. Tomorrow, we will get a business perspective and outline opportunity areas across different sectors. On Wednesday, we will have a closed door policy dialogue, and then on Thursday, we will showcase a select few UK venture capital firms and FinTechs to explore potential UK-Saudi partnership areas. So today's session is all about the journey Saudi Arabia is on to develop the economy, and in particular, a financial services hub with FinTech at its very core. Before we turn to our Saudi speakers, I would like to invite our ambassador, Neil Crompton, to say a few words. Ambassador, over to you.
Thanks, Salim. Hope everyone can hear me. Yeah? Yeah. It's quite an exciting day, I think. As Salim said, COVID has rather changed the way we see the world. Yesterday was my 4th-month anniversary in the kingdom, and I think I've only spent 2 weeks of it not in lockdown. As you can see, I haven't had a haircut yet. But I think it's all taught us to think about ways we do things differently, and the fact that we're doing this virtually today is evidence of that. I've been reading up on FinTech. I know that in the UK, this is a big area of growth. Our companies have been responding to the COVID crisis in innovative ways, as they're doing here in the kingdom. I had my first meeting with the governor of the Hassan last week, who spoke about how they're using blockchain technology to inject liquidity into the banking sector as part of their response. And I think to this audience, it goes without saying that our relationship is fantastically strong, particularly in the financial sector, where we've been involved for a long time with Saudi partners. UK is a key investment partner for Saudi Arabia. Last year, UK firms received the 2nd largest number of the new Saudi investor licenses after India. So we hope that there's lots of scope for developing, and that this week will give us a chance to talk about how we can talk about developing our cooperation both in FinTech and in the financial sector more generally. So this week, it's a sort of novel idea. It's our inaugural Saudi FinTech Week, and we hope to bring together key policymakers, business and entrepreneurs, both from Saudi Arabia and the UK, to discuss the ecosystem, mutual development plans, and trade and partnership opportunities. So we've had strong support from the Saudi financial sector, policy makers, and people to try and develop the financial sector and to work on this week. So it's really, we're looking forward to hearing the discussion today and throughout the week. I hope very much this time next year we may be able to do this in person, but I think we've all found working in this way is often more efficient, so there may be opportunities to follow up virtually and the like. But I do hope that I will get a chance to meet participants in person over the next few months as we gradually go down in lockdown. But anyway, I hand back to you, Salim, and hats off to you and the team for getting this going.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for setting the context for the week ahead. Before we kick off our presentations, a quick note about the format of today's session and the platform. We will shortly hear presentations from the Saudi Ministry of Investment, the Financial Sector Development Program, and FinTech Saudi. We will then have some time at the end for a Q&A. With the exception of the speakers, everyone else's mic is on mute. If you would like to ask a question, please type into the questions tab in the app so that I can read them out after the presentations. Please also say who the question is addressed to, who you are, and what company you are from. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our first speaker, Ibrahim AlSuwail, the Deputy for Investor Services at the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia. Ibrahim, over to you.
Thank you for this, ladies and gentlemen, friends and partners. Good afternoon and assalamu alaikum. I am delighted to have the opportunity to be with you all during the UK Saudi Virtual Fintech Week. My name is Ibrahim AlSuwail, Deputy of Investor Services and Advisory for the Ministry of Investment, MISA, of Saudi Arabia. It is a pleasure to be virtually present amongst you today, and I thank you for your reception and invitation to allow us to present the Kingdom's Vision 2030 ambitions and objectives. During these testing times, the Kingdom's leadership and government have demonstrated earnestly their efforts and commitment to the safety and health of all our citizens and residents, and above all, the dedicated protection of our national economy by supporting our partners in all sectors and areas of society, as well as collectively weather this storm. As a result of our continuous dialogue with the investors about their needs and concerns, government entities across Saudi Arabia have launched numerous initiatives to help ensure business continuity as part of a unified national response. These measures include allocating 36 billion British pound for the postponement and restructuring of loan, zakat and tax payments, extending work permits, reducing operating license fees, and supporting human resources and employee services with a dedicated fund of 1.22 billion pounds. SAMA supported the private sector through financing programs and incentives that include point of sale and e-commerce fee exemptions. MISA continued to support new investors by helping them explore and access a wide range of incentives, such as employment funding and ecosystem stimulus for small and medium enterprises. Friends, the investment climate in Saudi Arabia continues to improve its competitiveness and ease of doing business. In October 2019, the World Bank ranked Saudi Arabia as the world's top reformer and improver in its Doing Business 2020 report. Saudi Arabia also climbed 3 places in the World Economic Forum 2019 Global Competitiveness Report rankings. Saudi Arabia has risen 2 places in the annual World Competitiveness compiled by the IMD, ranking as the 24th most competitive economy. Saudi Arabia moved also up the ranking on 3 out of 4 factors covered by the benchmark in economic performance, business efficiency, and infrastructure. The Kingdom was also ranked the 8th most competitive G20 economy. Globally, Saudi Arabia ranked first in terms of labor force growth, second in consumer price index and cybersecurity, third in growth of export of commercial services, and 10th in the resilience of economy, investment incentives, and bank services support. This year, the Kingdom is the only improving country in the Middle East region. In addition, new reforms were recently introduced to include a new government procurement law and Saudi Center for Commercial Arbitration. FDI inflows to Saudi Arabia have increased every year since 2017, rising to 3.72 billion British pound in 2019, published in the World Investment Report 2020. MISA licensed 348 new foreign investments projects in Q1 2020, making it the strongest period for investor interest in 10 years. The leading sources of new foreign investors include the United Kingdom. UK businesses in Saudi Arabia are significant players in their respective sectors and are thriving. There has been an increase of new UK companies who have chosen to set up a presence in Saudi Arabia in recent years, with 32 new licenses issued as of Q1 2020 and 100 license issues in 2019. Currently, there are over 500 UK companies registered in Saudi Arabia, including HSBC, Standard Chartered, and Checkout.com. As the Ministry of Investment, we look forward to welcoming and supporting new investors and businesses from the UK. We inaugurated our first international office at the Royal Embassy of Saudi Arabia in London earlier this year, allowing us to work closely and effortlessly with businesses and facilitate partnerships between our 2 nations. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has not wavered in its commitment to the goals of Vision 2030 and gathered here today with the Department of International Trade. I would like to commend our steadfast partnership with the United Kingdom. The UK is our historic friend, and you have worked with us to get Saudi Arabia to where we are today. I'm certain that we will continue to work together as we achieve our future goals and navigate the challenges of this uncertain period. Part of the Vision 2030 is the Financial Sector Development Program, which aims to develop a diversified and effective financial sector. The program is committed to increasing the share of non-cash transactions, enhancing the depth and breadth of financial services and products offered, and opening the sector to emerging fintech players. As of March 2020, Saudi payments companies shows a clear spike for online payments. Over 360 million pounds in online sales, over 7 million online transactions, over 2.7 million MISA card users to pay online, reached 406% online payments on year-on-year increase, 174 million point of sale transaction, 67% point of sale payments increase year-over-year increase, and reached 239% MISA card usage year-on-year increase. Saudi Arabia has a robust supporting infrastructure for fintech. We are we are ranked number 4 globally in terms of 5G technology and 10th in terms of internet speed. The jump in the kingdom's global ranking was a fact proven by the spread of optic fiber benefiting over 3 million households and the utilization of more than 7,000 5G towers in the kingdom. Today with DIT, we start the UK Saudi Virtual Fintech Week, highlighting key investment opportunities across the fintech in the kingdom. It is my hope that our investment potential and opportunities may interest you as we look forward to collaborating and working with you to nurture a healthy, safe, and future-proof Saudi Arabia. Thank you all for your time. Take care and stay safe. Shukran. And now I hold it to Mr. Hassan Almoslem to take us through the presentation, please.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim, for this interesting facts and figures that you have mentioned. It was a really short talk, but rich in terms of information. So please let me walk you through an overall slides that talks about Saudi Arabia. Overall, it's a bit tailored to FS. However, moving on, FSDP as well as Fintech Saudi will be discussed with you in detail. So if you go one slide further. So I just wanted to start this by eye-catching about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is one of the largest countries in the world. In matter of fact, it is the 13th largest country in the world. If you put it next to Europe, it's almost 40 to 45% of whole Europe size, and almost 30% of US size as well. Moving forward, as my colleague said, Mr. Ibrahim, that we are one of the largest growing countries in the world in terms of population, and therefore we are, in matter of fact, we are the fastest growing nation in the world by a rate of 2.5%, and that gives you an indicator of the coming youth to the countries in which it will inflow a lot of demand regarding the fintech in specific. So moving forward, we have a couple of interesting figures here regarding Saudi Arabia. Again, as I said, we are the first and the fastest growing population in the G20 countries, take into consideration a growth rate of 2.5. Actually, we are half size of, we are more than, we are almost 50% of whole GCC economy and almost 32% of whole Middle East economy. And that makes us one of the largest countries in the Middle East in terms of economy. Also, very interesting figure that we are the second highest road. We have the second highest road connectivity index worldwide, just behind the US. There is almost nothing in the Saudi Arabia that you can't reach by your car. Also interesting figure that we have almost 500 billion opportunities in NIDLIB, It's more toward industrial side, but it shows you how it is very powerful, and hence it will inflow an investment from financial standpoint. Final thing here before I move forward, we are the 18th largest economy in the world, and we aim as part of Vision 2030 to become one of the top 15 around the world. If you go one further slide, we will start speaking about our ambitious Vision 2030. It came up to the world at October 2016. And since then, Saudi Arabia has changed dramatically in all phases, especially from economic, from culture, from society, from investment, from almost everything. One of the things that my colleague Ibrahim has mentioned, and I would like to emphasize on it, that we became the top performer countries in terms of economic reforms, according to the World Bank. For last year and the year before, we were the 4th best reformer. And therefore, if you go to the World Bank website, you will see Saudi Arabia as a case for benchmark that other countries around the world can see and implement the criteria that KSA has done. So that all because of the Vision 2030, which is our bigger umbrella regarding that matter. If we go to one slide further, we see that this vision is built on 3 major pillars: a vibrant society, thriving economy, and ambitious nation. I'll give you one very interesting fact of each and every pillar. A vibrant society. Saudi Arabia, almost 70 or more than 70% of our labor force below 30 years old, making us one of the youngest countries around the world in terms of age indexes. And hence, we have a lot of SMEs going up, and a lot of startups are creating in Saudi Arabia. Matter of fact, 2019 and 20, we have more SMEs than ever in the whole Middle East, and especially the GCC. So back to the point, and in that specific point, we aim to increase the SME contributions to GDP from 20, which stands today, 35%. So you can imagine this 15%, how much of billions of opportunities that SMEs is aiming for, and hence fintech can play a major role in that point as well. We have a thriving economy. 2 points I can mention here. First of all, the FDI from overseas, we would like to increase it from 3.8 up to 5.7. And also this tells you how Saudi Arabia is open toward international investors and how we can bring international investments, as well as we aim to create a 50-50 economy, 50 oil dependent and 50 non-oil dependent economy. And again, this also gives a huge opportunities for the private sector to play a role in that manner. Final point in our vision is ambitious nation. You have here the PIF, which is our sovereign wealth funds. Now they have assets of almost 600 billion Saudi riyal. We aim to increase it to 7 trillion Saudi riyal, and that's almost 2.73 trillion US dollars in terms of assets under management. If you go one step further, it shows you overall, based on this vision, that Saudi Arabia is changing on a pace that no one is expected before, and it is so successfully done because we are seeing results. So, for example, if you start with the events, just last year, Saudi Arabia has created more than 5,000 live events that came across 56 countries. Sorry, this is the slide after. More than 5,000 live events that created, that been there in more than 56 across the kingdom. This created 20,000 jobs. However, the budgeted size for the tourism and entertainment is exceeding 64 billion US dollars, making us one of the largest, making it one of the largest budgets around the world regarding the tourism and entertainment aspect. So moving forward, we have also empowering women. We know this year women started to drive, started to have another interesting facts as well. And one of the things that we are focusing at is giving them also more space in fitness aspect, because we have a program called the Quality of Life, and it focuses on increasing the health of Saudis, regardless males or females, and hence we aim to create 30 new fitness centers over the next 5 years. When we talk about 30 fitness, we mean it's a mega fitness, not a small one. It's a mega fitness centers. 80% of those 30 will be specialized for women, and hence we also increase the women participation and women fitness in Saudi Arabia. Also, very interesting facts that we have here is a Six Flags deals that we have signed last year or 2 years ago, and that would be in Qiddiya in Riyadh, very close to Riyadh actually. That again gets back to $30 billion of tourism spending by Saudi abroad. That this is what Saudis are spending now abroad. We would love to tailor some of those billions into the Saudi Arabia, and hence Six Flags is there as well. So a final slide that I have here that shows you the appetite of international investor. We have thousands of foreign investors that already established in Saudi Arabia. However, I put some of financials and some of non-financials. We see BNP Paribas, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, HSBC. These are the banks, and also there are more, but these are banks, foreign banks that have been established in Saudi Arabia for years and years and years, and if then successfully in incrementing their business in Saudi Arabia, as well as deliver the right experience to our economy. However, very interesting fact, SAMA, which is our central bank, has changed the regulations of financial institutions very recently. Since it changed its regulations, it inflow major banks recently in the last 1.5 years. We have here Bank of China, for example, that we've licensed last year. Credit Suisse also we've licensed last year. Standard Chartered that came from Britain also been licensed very recently. State Street from US also licensed very recently, as well as Natixis from France. We have much more, but these are the top names that have been licensed very recently, making us one of the fastest hub in the Middle East to attract financial institutions towards Saudi Arabia. Once again, my colleague Ibrahim and I from Ministry of Investments are more than happy to welcome you and answer any concerns you have, and walk you through any questions that you have, and make Saudi Arabia for you as friendly as possible, and attract meaningful investment to our country. Thank you so much. I'm back to Salim. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim and Hassan. Your presentation and remarks really underline some of the progress that's being made in Saudi Arabia, and why Saudi Arabia is a country that UK companies should be considering. Now, to get more of a policy view, and particularly within financial services and fintech, I would like to turn over to Shihnaz Alshegry, Strategy and Relations Manager from the Financial Sector Development Program. Shihnaz, over to you.
Thank you, Salim. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here and introduce to you the Financial Development Program. Today, we want to give you an overview of the efforts that has been done to develop the financial sector in Saudi Arabia. If we please can go to the next slide. The Financial Sector Program is the other slide, please. Yes. The Financial Sector Development Program is one of the 13 Vision Realization Program launched by SIDA to realize the Vision 2030. The purpose of the program is to develop a diversified and an effective financial sector to support the development of the national economy, diversify its sources of income, and stimulate saving, financing, and investment. The program is based on 3 strategic pillars, enabling financial institutions to support private sector growth, ensure the formation of an advanced capital market, and lastly, promote and enable the financial planning. If we can go to the next slide, please. The 3 strategic pillars of FSCP contribute directly to achieving the Kingdom Vision 2030, as my colleague in MISA has explained, through we want to have and create a thriving economy through growing and diversifying the economy, which will help contribute, which would be enabled by the help and the contribution of the private sector to the economy through ensuring the formation of an advanced capital market and enable financial institutions to support the private sector. Also, we aim to have an ambition nation through enabling social responsibility by enabling citizens' responsibility, which will be through promoting and enabling the financial planning. If we can go to the next slide, please. The program aspired to deliver a large and a diversified and a digitized and a stable financial sector, fully aligned to the Vision 2030. As the guys has explained, we aim to increasing the financial sector size to enable the 2030 GDP aspiration, have a dynamic capital market with multiple investment alternatives and diversified financing sources. We also aim to create highly paid professional jobs and enhance capabilities of the current workforce. We also aim to have a diverse, inclusive, and a digitally enabled banking sector with more than 60 new market players, have an embedded saving cultures founded on regionally leading rates of financial literacy. Also, we want to continue the globally recognized stability of the financial sector and solidity of the regulatory oversight. Also, the program, if we can go to the next slide, please. Also, the program has defined 4 commitments to be achieved in the future that will constitute the foundations in the realization of the 2030 aspiration. We aim to increase the total size of the financial assets to GDP ratio, increase the share of the capital market assets, increase the share of SME funding and financing, and also increase the share of non-cash transaction. And I'm very proud to say that in 2019, we have reached 36%. If we can go to the next slide, please. And lastly, we have almost 42 initiatives that are housed under the program that will be executed by 11 different entities. Under the first pillar, we have 17 programs, 13 of which are with the Saudi Monetary Authority. The second pillar, we have 14 initiatives, 12 of which are with the Capital Market Authority. And lastly, to promote and enable private savings and financial planning, we have 11 different entities that we're working to enable and promote our financial sector. I want to thank you all for being here with us, and back to you, Salim.
Thank you very much, Shihnaz, for that. That's very interesting. Just a reminder to all those who are dialing in, if they have any questions, please do use the questions tab in the app and submit your questions. Right, so I mean, no fintech strategy can be complete without an actual hub. So to hear more about what is being done in this space, I would like to introduce Nejoud Almulaik, the Director of Fintech Saudi. Nejoud, over to you.
Thank you, Salim. So thank you for having us today to support the discussion, and we're delighted to definitely review the Kingdom's strategy around fintech in Saudi Arabia. So we'll move into the next slide. So just to give an overview, so Fintech Saudi is an initiative launched by the central bank, the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, in 2018 to develop the ecosystem. We'll speak about thriving ecosystem, and I'll come to that in the coming slides as well. But the whole objective is to support the growth of a subsector of a financial industry and a sector that is thriving in Saudi Arabia. Next, please. So Fintech Saudi initiative has 3 main objectives, or I would say pillars, to support the infrastructure development, meaning by bringing the regulatory environment closer to the startups and bringing the know-how and the knowledge to the startup and the fintech new players as they bring very customized specific services in the financial sector that requires, of course, tailored hybrid regulations. And I would say that's a huge area that we're gonna explore as we move forward in Saudi as well. And then we're going to talk about building capabilities and talent. As I said, the second major pillar that we focus on is building capabilities and talent by bringing the, training courses, education program, the know-how, and what it takes to bring financial institution as they grow. I would say fintechs will grow into definitely larger financial institutions that are regulated for multiple services. Finally, of course, the entrepreneurship and investment ecosystem, where we definitely encourage more investments through VCs or private equity and create a pipeline for fintechs to enter the market or to thrive from Saudi Arabia, and again, scale their services and products. Next, please. And I would love to stop here and talk about our initiatives that focuses on 6, I would say, main areas. Is definitely the government support. As we speak today, the government support is, as we have it from SAMA and CMA, the Capital Markets Authority as well, is to encourage the innovation and attract fintechs to apply into the sandbox and the fintech lab. So definitely that's one of the initiatives where we, as I mentioned, fintech regulatory assessment tool will be launched on the 25th of June that will have a very interactive tool that supports fintechs to explore regulations, building the pipeline of talent and innovation, access to innovation through training courses and building the talent pipeline, and encourage the know-how transfer. These are the areas that usually government support with, and definitely with our initiative we are targeting these programs. Moving into the capital requirements that we see that the market needs in Saudi Arabia. Definitely the more of the accelerator program, the more of the incubator programs specified in the fintech industry will support the growth of having a capital investments and deploy capital investments in Saudi. And we've seen a couple of announcements around 6 major deals throughout the past 3 years. And again, encourage banks and incumbents to participate in our programs, or encourage them to invest in certain platforms, as we've seen them, of course, with certain funds already announced to support the growth of fintech industry in Saudi, or leverage on that as well. The third area, as we move forward, is that we've seen moving forward the supportive policies and the new announcements of regulations, specifically in the payment industry, have already attracted many players, as we've seen in the map over here, and we're going to, of course, update that with more players in Q2, end of Q2. As we've seen growth in payments, lending and finance, and as well the private fundraising companies and business tools and information analytics companies, and capital markets, banking infrastructure, the insurance, as well as one of the areas that are attracting attention of the government, and especially the central bank, to bring more solutions in that, and personal finance and treasury management. And we're not far away from the whole universe. We've seen the growth in payments, and we're moving forward into finance, and then we're going to see another areas that will grow eventually in Saudi. One of the main areas that we focus on in Fintech Saudi is the access to the right talent, and of course with that we're going to introduce the Fintech Hub concept. To the second slide, please. So in 2019, during the FSDP conference, there was a partnership signed between SAMA, Central Bank, and Capital Markets Authority to create a fintech hub located in King Abdullah Financial District. That hub is going to focus, of course, and if you move to the upcoming slide as well. The hub will be targeting certain specific accelerator program, and the target date for the first accelerator program through Fintech Saudi is in September. That is for scale-up startups to be able to even thrive more into the industry. So that is going to be the first scale-up accelerator program. And of course, once we have that hub open, and hopefully we're not going to have any delays further than November 2020 with the COVID situation, we will have, of course, a co-working space, and we will conduct most of our education and training courses from there, and partnership and community engagements out of the physical hub. So as I mentioned, one of the focus areas is building the know-how and educational programs. So Fintech Saudi launched the internship program, and we have already announced the numbers for this year for 3 years in a row. And if we move to the second slide, please. The internship is in collaboration with incumbents, banks, and fintechs to support them with attracting talents and training programs that can be extended through the internship that will enhance the upskilling and hiring opportunities for Saudi young talents. So we've done that in 2017, 18, 19, and 20, and we've opened that, and that program have expanded into multiple streams and multiple areas as well. It includes the final year students, final non-final year students, recent graduates, and experienced hires, where they would love to change their careers. So it's a bit every year and year we expand on that program. And if you move to the next slide, please. Usually we structure, of course, the program where they have at least minimum 3 months to 7 months, and that will support the building the experience and the know-how, and potentially, as I mentioned, full-time job in respective organization and fintech startups as well. The numbers are growing, as we can see, every year. Where we started, we had 1,300, and then 500, 5,200, and we expanded this year the program into technical and business streams, and we attracted more than 30,000 registration. And the numbers are growing into this year. We're taking more than 90 interns for 2020. And part of our building the ecosystem engagement is the community engagement, and there's the Fintech Saudi tour, which is the largest cluster fintech tour in the Middle East, where we've done the first one in Saudi, and then we moved into regional and we added cities. And if we can move to the second slide, please. And we moved into the other slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so we can see that the first fintech tour was across 7 cities in Saudi, and we moved into more than 12 cities with 44 events, basically in partnership with the ecosystem, the banks, the technology companies, the fintechs themselves, the universities, and therefore we really look about how we engage the ecosystem in multiple layers, whether it's training, community engagement, investments, raising capital, and the government, of course, initiatives where it comes to opening up for a sandbox or a fintech lab for testing environment, which is a very critical area to expand on. And as I mentioned, we've seen regulations and certain fintechs, especially in the lending area and payments, are already participated in the SAMA's sandbox and the fintech lab with the robo-advisory and crowdfunding equity fintechs. And the number that we have now captured and recognized by the government regulators around 41 fintechs, and we've captured more than 66 fintech in the ecosystem. So that's where we focus on when it comes to building an ecosystem, and we're focusing more on expanding in our activities and form partnerships with international fintechs and international government entities that can support the collaboration and bringing fintechs in Saudi and encourage more investments and transfer and the know-how and transfer knowledge. This is just a slide to touch on our stakeholder map and partnerships across the ecosystem as well. So thank you for that, and I'm happy to take any questions about Fintech Saudi or as well the fintechs players in the market.
Thank you very much, Nejoud, and thank you to all of you for your very insightful presentations. So we'll now move on to a Q&A. just a reminder, I can see questions coming in thick and fast. Just a reminder to everyone asking questions, if you can also please state which company you are from, that will help us. Thank you. So let me start by asking Hassan, actually, from the Ministry of Investment. What's the process then currently for a foreign company who wants to set up in Saudi Arabia? I mean, what's the licensing process, and is there any capital requirements?
Yes, Salim. For these specific questions, we talk into two different things. First of all, there is core licensors and there is support licensors. So the core licensors here definitely will be either SAMA, which is our central bank, or CMA, which is Capital Market Authority. And then comes us, which is Ministry of Investments, because any foreign investor has to be licensed from us. Now, depending on the fintech application, if it more toward fundraising and investment and securities related, then it goes toward Capital Market Authority sandbox and approval. Then if it was toward banking solutions, payment solutions, then it goes insurance as well. It goes under SAMA sandbox. So the thing is, to answer your question very brief, once they obtain the initial approval from SAMA or from Capital Market Authority, they come to us. We issue the license. We just ask about their commercial registration as well as the last year audited financial statements. It has to be stamped from Saudi Arabian embassy overseas. Specifically, for example, if it was a UK company, then it is from Royal Embassy, Saudi Royal Embassy in London. Then they apply through our website. It's very easy, it's very automated. Once we receive the application, along with the initial approval from SAMA or CMA and the capital and the commercial registration, as well as last year audited financials, we grant the license for them, and then they come back to CMA again or SAMA to get the final approval before they go for the rest. So all of what I've mentioned is considered to be a core licensing process. The non-core licensing process is they go for Ministry of Labor, Tax Authority, and so on and so forth, which is the normal process for any other country. Is there any capital requirement? No. The majority of them, no. They go for sandbox, and if they pass the sandbox, they get the initial approval from SAMA or CMA.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Got a question from Sayed Rida from BNP Paribas, who asks, sorry, can you go down? I think his question is, how can we, sorry, this is for Nejoud, and how can we engage with some of the companies in FinTech Saudi?
So thank you for that question, and I'm happy to hear that. Well, they can definitely contact us directly and let us know about what kind of fintechs they're looking at, whether they're in Saudi or outside Saudi. We need to, of course, to answer that question, we would love to establish a communication with them and understand on how which kind of fintechs they're looking to be introduced to, and we will support that, of course.
Thank you very much, Nejoud. We have a question that's come through from Catherine McGuinness, who is the policy chair from the City of London Corporation. Catherine, incidentally, will be participating in the closed door policy discussion on Wednesday. So Catherine asks, the City of London Corporation engages closely with the financial and professional services industry in the UK, alongside colleagues in government and other leading organisations specialising in fintech, such as Innovate Finance, who are the fintech trade body in the UK. Is there anything that you think could be done more collectively to support with Saudi's vision and fintech ecosystem with our breadth of fintech and financial professional services networks? I guess this is a question that I'd like to ask all of you, really. So what can we be doing in the UK more to collaborate with you to help you realise your ambitions? Can I start by asking Shihnaz?
Thank you, Salim. We are very happy to collaborate with the UK government and UK embassy to have the FinTech Week, and we are looking more forward to more collaboration and efforts to have lesson learned and also understand how the UK has established the FinTech strategy and more collaboration in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Shihnaz. Again, if you can ask that question to Nejoud. So what more can we be doing in the UK to help FinTech Saudi?
Well, of course, we would love to be directly engaged with current ecosystem players through the embassy, of course, as Shihnaz mentioned, to support certain programs. As I mentioned, we're launching the accelerator program, and we would love to have the transfer of the know-how. We're looking at a specific educational program, and we're more than happy to partner with education institutions and as well put the current fintechs, potential fintechs, to I would say a bridge program that they can work with existing fintechs. Additionally, we have a huge amount of researchers and academics around with a lot of interesting scientific theories and papers that we would love to test, and therefore we would be more than happy to build into that bridge certain program that supports production of certain products and to be tested as well.
Thank you, Nejoud. And then finally to Hassan on that question of what more can we be doing to support the Ministry of Investment?
Well, absolutely. It is a bilateral relationship that we aim. And UK for Saudi Arabia is a very major hub for financial institutions, specifically for fintech as well, since it is a leading country. Since we are the umbrella of all foreign investors in Saudi Arabia, part of what we do is matching the opportunities. We do a lot of matchmaking between international investors and local opportunities, and fintech is no exception. In that manner, it is one way to collaborate and encourage foreign or UK fintechs to explore the opportunities that we have in Saudi Arabia, specifically from business to business aspects. And that the second one, we do have a very, very strong relationships with SAMA and SEMA, as well as FSDP and Fintech Saudi, in which we can be the main coordinator and supporter to give them an access to all of those supportive entities, as well as we can also look further into signing an MOU between innovative fintech or whatever. I'm sorry, I forget the name, and the Ministry of Investment in that manner as well. At the end of the day, our arms are open to welcome any UK fintech to Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Hassan. I'm sure that provides plenty of food for thought from us from the UK side to try and take some of those ideas forward. Got a question that's come through from Chris Innes-Hopkins, who's the CEO of SBJBC, the Saudi British Joint Business Council. They're also our partners for this week, and they'll be participating in the closed door dialogue on Wednesday. Chris asks, this is a question for Nejoud. Will foreign fintechs be able to benefit from the planned Fintech Saudi Hub services?
Well, Fintech Saudi Hub services extended to, of course, local fintechs, not just local fintechs, meaning by local, it's local domiciled fintechs, meaning that even international fintechs who are already licenses in Saudi to operate will be able to benefit, and visitors as well coming from outside Saudi are welcome to benefit from the Fintech Hub physical space.
Thank you, Nejoud. Let's go to our next question. It's this one. Okay, so we have a question from Hassan Wali, who is the Chief Data Officer of Lighthouse and Greenfield. So I understand that they are a data tech startup that can add value to fintech platforms and ecosystem. He says, I would like to establish a HQ in Saudi or the UK. Who can I contact to start the process? Well, Hassan, if you're looking to set up something in the UK, then please do reach out to us directly. And I guess looking to start up in Saudi, the first point call would be, again, you can go through AlSuwail. It could be the Ministry of Investment. If we can go to the next question. Okay, you know what? I've got quite a few questions, and let me go to a different one. Nejoud, if you don't mind me asking, so you spoke a little bit about some of the kind of the main themes that seem to be more prominent in the hub so far. I think you kind of focus on payments and as was one of the areas. What do you see as kind of in terms of trends and going forward? Which subsectors, which sub-verticals do you think will kind of become more prominent in the next 2-3 years in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think there is, of course, room for more in payments, lending, and I think we will see more in insurance and robo-advisory and data analytics and platforms that are linked to financial tools. So to be honest, there is no limit. Payments will, I believe, and will remain the most active area, moving into lending, but I think InsurTech and data analytics linked with current I would say targets that already we're looking at will be active in the next 2 to 3 years. And more into that, I think the focus is, of course, to utilize current technologies to support the movement into the incumbents and banking sector who are looking at to more digitized solutions.
Thank you, Nejoud. So we're still going through, so there's a lot of questions coming through. Clearly, it's generated a lot of interest from our audience. A question, actually, for myself, if you don't mind, for Shihnaz. So clearly, the whole world has been, massively disrupted and impacted by COVID-19. What impact has it had on your vision and plans for the financial sector here in Saudi?
That's a great question, but honestly, this has been a difficult time worldwide. But we're still focusing and aiming to achieve our goals, and working with our stakeholders to still promote and develop the financial sector. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Shihnaz. Again, sorry, just going through a number of questions that are coming through. What's that one? A question, actually, again from our side, if you don't mind. This is for Hassan, Ministry of Investment. I'm sure that our UK fintechs will be wondering what kind of incentives might be available for new foreign entrants in Saudi Arabia. I mean, are there any that you can speak about?
Yes, for that aspect, there are a couple of incentives in the place. There are also expected incentives to be there. One of the things that I can start with is regarding the tax aspect. We at the Ministry of Investment, we do have a mega fund that we do incentivize the investors that willing to invest in Saudi Arabia and add value to Saudi Arabia to incentivize their own governmental expenditures. By saying that, tax also is there. The renewal of, for example, work visas and residencies are there as well, and so on and so forth. But again, the tax is something that we can look at. We do have corporate net income tax of 20%. The stronger the investment, again, it doesn't have to be in terms of just pure value. In terms of investment size, it can be strategic as well. So the strongest the investment, the stronger the incentives. Also, we do have other incentives that is linked with our ecosystem in Saudi. I think Fintech Saudi also, when they explained about their own workplace that they aim to provide, I believe this is also one of the incentives for startups, specifically in fintechs. So these are, I would say, the major ones that we can provide. Other than that, there is something also at the Ministry of Investments called aftercare. It is no more. It used to be an incentives, but now it is no more an incentives. It is something already there. If any fintech invested a single penny in Saudi Arabia, it will be under our own umbrella. In the near future, if it faces any part of or any kind of difficulties, MISA will act upon the investor side and will resolve it as soon as we can. And therefore, we have hired a whole full team that's responsible about the aftercare in that manner as well. So I believe this list of things that we can provide. Also, there's something before I hand it over to you called tailored incentives. If an incentive that is not from the thing that I've mentioned, definitely the fintech can or the fintech company can ask us, okay, what if you do that? What if you do this? So this is something that we can also look at. So this is, I believe, the shortcut of the incentives that do provide in the Ministry of Investments and other stakeholders as well.
Thank you very much for that, Hassan. One final question we've got time for. It's come through from Andre Costa, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at Saudi Post. Andre asks, do you believe that the private sector and the players coming into the fintech market are satisfying the innovation and developments that Saudi Arabia expects? Or do you believe the government may have more of an active role to push some fintech areas into the space? I guess that's kind of might be best placed with Nejoud.
Thank you, and I would like to thank Andreas for that question. As we move forward with the sandbox and the FinTech Club, I think the policies will change, and that will create more open opportunity for more innovative solutions in Saudi. Of course, governments always play the foundation role, and we've seen that with SAMA and CMA already, and with upcoming cohorts, I think the SAMA and CMA testing environment will be more towards adding new services and innovative solutions, of course. Name it. I think it's going to be exciting cohorts from both sides.
Thank you very much, Nejoud. I see that we're almost up. Time's almost up. So thank you to all the people who asked questions. We haven't had time to pose them all of them, but we're happy to follow up, and please do reach out to us and everyone else if we didn't answer your question. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you also to Arabian Enterprise Incubators for helping us deliver the session today and for helping us throughout the week. If you would like to learn more about doing business in Saudi, please do reach out to ourselves in DIT or to AEI or indeed the Ministry of Investment. That concludes today's session. A reminder that tomorrow at the same time, noon UK time and 2 p.m. Saudi time, we will have a panel discussion to get a business perspective on challenges and opportunities in Saudi Arabia. I hope you'll all be able to dial in. Thank you, and I wish you all a good rest of the day. Sorry.
All right.
Well done.
It's very difficult.